Big guy.
28,
Big guy.
Kansas City Branch,
Turn the mic
36.
up.
You want to yell?
No, turn the lights on.
Talk
Is
loud.
that up? Is that
There you go.
better?
There.
As the representative for legislative for Missouri, had the luxury of joining St. Louis on some of theirs, going on Kansas City, some of ours, and then some individual ones for the state. Everybody that we spoke with was on board with 1789. Nobody from Missouri likes the ISA bill. So the last I checked, there's still nobody on board with the ISA bill. Most of them are on board with 1789. Sam Graves is making a big push because he's got a lot of rural areas. He's got a lot of power and clout down there, so he'll get some pull for the 1789 bill. I haven't got any feedback really from anybody. We did have some new people working in the congressmen and senators' offices that wanted some information. Hopefully Craig was able to get that out. Other than that, I don't think there was much more. One thing that the consensus seemed to be from a couple of them, they're very displeased with the post office in the sense that they're getting false information. Donahoe and his people are not giving them all the facts about the plant closures, about the duos, about the rural offices. So what we've tried to push back and give them as much information as we can give them, because everything they're sending them is false information. It's what the post office wants to put out there. It's not what we the people, we the employees know is going on. What we know are the facts. So if you've got that, talk to your congressmen and senators, make sure you push that to them and let them know that what they're getting from headquarters is not the right information. So with that, Janice.
I'm Janice Meagle, Vice President of the state of Iowa, even though this is a Boston accent, but most of you heard before. The biggest thing that I really was impressed with is that there's not a lot of Iowans here, but Republican or Democrat in the state of Iowa, they're absolutely committed to the existence of the Postal Service. If I can just quote what Senator Grassley wrote the other day, you know, when we have those links, I go on and send them like twice, once in my husband's name, Tom Eagle, and one in mine. And he said, I have a moral obligation, is what he wrote, to actually have this organization survive. And when I go to, we have Braley, we have Loebsack, we have Tom Latham, we have Boswell, and we have King. And as you know, King is very outspoken, he's a Tea Partier. You have Congressman Braley on the Davenport end, and he is probably most liberal that you can imagine. You have Tom Latham, who is a more in the middle type Republican, and you have Loebsack, who really follows Braley's lead, and Boswell, again, who's pretty liberal. I think when you look at our representatives and you look at our senators, no matter which office I go to, I'm really talking to the choir, and it makes me feel really good. One of the things that I suggest to those of you who would make someday would like to go up and be legislative chairs and go up and talk to your congressman, my most successful work has been meeting the congressmen and senators back home. One of the things that Bruce Moyer keeps saying is connect. I go to Republican group meetings, I go to Democrat group meetings, just so that I can be that little fly in the wall and says to Steve King, hey Steve, remember the post office, we can't let it die. And he'll say to me, yeah, no, he's the Tea Party guy. He's the one that you hear in the news all the time. He'll say never. He says it's an organization that Iowa needs and we believe in it. And I think that's something to remember. One of the congressman's aides, and I've seen a lot of them for the last 15 years, I guess I've been going, right, Iowa? Is it 15 now for Iowa? Said that one of the most effective things when we had that Save the Postal Service, we had presidents from every one of our branches bring petitions to all of my 5 congressmen. And I think that was something that would probably work again if we so be it. But I cannot underestimate the fact that you need to go on to NAPS.org and go to your legislative section, and when 1789 Well, it's been passed, okay, but when the House bill, after they struggle it all out, if they in fact can come up with a House bill, because at one point there were 30 bills in the House, to go on and click your own congressman and say, please support this bill. Because overall, and that's what Grassley was saying, to me personally, because I had a telecon with him when I was out there in March, because he was up for a vote. He's, Janice, I know that bill. He says as an organization, he said it's a bipartisan decision by the Senate not to let the post office go under. And I think that's probably not what's in 1789. You guys can read that. You know, there's a lot of things going, and ultimately with the Senate bill, and the House comes up with their bill, they'll come with the compromise, and then that will be the bill that will have to get passed. But I want you to understand that it's important that you connect with each one of your congressmen and know your senator's aides locally. It's real important to talk to both. I mean, yeah, I have it easy because I got a Boston accent talking to to Iowans. You know, they remember, they might not know my name, but they know this is that lady with the funny voice. So I've got an edge. But really, I can, and see them at home. I've seen Grassley, Harkin, King, Losac, Latham, and Braley this year in some sort of a forum that I can go up to them and say, just remember the post office, we can't die. You don't have to go talk about bill numbers or anything. That's what you say to their aides. But just say, just so they know your face and know your name. Not know your name, look at your face and say, oh, that's post office. Because that's what Grassley will say. He don't know my name from Adam. But he'll say, that's post office. And that's why it's real important to connect locally. So we'll see what happens with the House. I think that something will come out, but I don't think you're going to see it till after the elections. So I really believe that from what I read, and I'm on Tom's all the time, and I look at all the different things that they're passing, and they're just fighting. The House is just fighting. I think after the election, you'll see more happen. So with that, good luck. Take care.
Those of you that have never been to Washington, you've missed a real treat as far as never been to the legislature, because they provide us with a ton of tools up there that are really valuable. First of all, they give us a legislative briefing book. They make it available to us online before we go, and then they give us copies of it when we arrive up there. They go through it as a part of the training, and believe me, we have training before we ever go up on the Hill. This year they also came up with a smaller, more compact booklet for us to take up on the Hill with us, so that we wouldn't have to carry the larger one. They also give us congressional meeting talking points, and they go over these in the session so that you know when you go up on the Hill what it is that the message we are carrying. Because you don't have to go up there and be an expert on all this subject matter. Bruce is fantastic about providing us with an awful lot of tools to take up there. This year we also had an item that they handed out to us called a Dear Colleague letter. And this was a copy of a letter to the members of the House, signed by Gerald Connolly and Don Young, both members of the House of Representatives. And there was also one that was to the Senate. And there was also one to Speaker Boehner and Leader Pelosi on the House side, talking about the Postal Service bill and trying to encourage all of Congress to do something to support us. One of the members up there this year came up with something that was extremely impressive, and it was alluded to earlier, and I would like to just read to you. It is general information about the post office from the Constitution. In June of 1788, the 9th state ratified the Constitution, which gave Congress the power to establish post offices and post roads in Article 1, Section 8. A year later, the Act of September 22, 1789, continued the post office and made the Postmaster General subject to the direction of the President. The post office received 2 one-year extensions by the Act of August 4, 1790 and March 3, 1791. The Act of February 20, 1792 continued the post office for another 2 years and formally admitted newspapers to the mail, gave Congress the power to establish post routes, and prohibited postal officials from opening letters. Later, legislation enlarged the duties of the post office, strengthened and unified its organization, and provided rules for its development. The Act of May 8, 1794 continued the post office indefinitely. The interesting factor about this is we took this up to the Hill with us. We took copies of it and gave to all of the legislative aides that we met with, and it was just an eye-opener to them, because all of a sudden they realized a little piece of history, that the post office isn't a Johnny-come-lately. This is one of the first things that was done by our Congress once our Congress started establishing things. So it shows that to them, and believe me, most of the legislative aides up there are kids. And some of them are rather intelligent kids. Some of them are political appointees. Their dad got them the appointment to be an aide because he was a big contributor. But bottom line is, these kids need a lot of this training, a lot of this education. But then, in addition to that, on the morning before we were going to go up on Capitol Hill, we were having breakfast, and Bruce Moyer commented to me about one of my senators, Pat Roberts, putting on an amendment on the highway bill that would extend the pay freeze for federal employees. And he says, Naps is a member of the Federal Postal Coalition that will be sending a letter to every member of the Senate. He says, fact is, if you want to go down to the snack bar downstairs, you can get a copy of the Washington Post that has all of this information on it. Well, as soon as I got that, I got with my people, and I also called back to the people in NARF here in Wichita, and let them, or actually in the state of Kansas, and let them know about this pay freeze, because it doesn't impact the Postal Service, but it does impact a lot of other people that we have to be together as a coalition. There are 4.6 million members of the Federal Postal Coalition urging you to vote no on the Roberts Amendment. And we didn't get a copy of this letter in time to take it up that day, but Bruce got me a copy when I got back to the office. But we were able to communicate this to the people on the Senate side. It came to a vote the following day and was defeated. So that amendment did not get in. But we let Senator Roberts' office, and also our other senator, Senator Moran, we let their office know that we were not happy with this, even though it wasn't affecting postal employees' pay. It's one of those things that you get to the nose of the camel under the tent, and pretty soon you got the whole stinking camel under the tent. Two other items that I want to bring up is that Janice was talking about getting online for NARF.org. I'm sorry, NAPS.org. Get my wrong website here. Because on the 10th of this month, on the legislative information on NAPS, there was a printout on this Senate Bill 1789 that has been passed in the Senate and has gone over to the House. And it has all of the major provisions, including barring the closing of postal facilities before the November elections, but barring the closing of rural post offices for at least 1 year and create more stringent criteria for doing so. Postal Service may not close the post office if the closest post office is more than 10 miles away. But my congressman from Wichita, Congressman Pompeo, had written a letter to the Postmaster General last December, and his office sent me a copy of this letter, which, like Janice says, those communications, that report is invaluable, because they were willing to just send it to me. Anyway, it said that instead of considering closing all these small rural post offices, don't you think you could save a few more dollars by closing some of those post offices on Capitol Hill that are just within a matter of buildings from each other? One of the things in this bill is to consolidate the 7 post offices and House and Senate office buildings to 1 for each chamber. So already some of these things are coming to bear. But it cracked me up that they also, the bill as passed by the Senate, limits the salaries for senior postal executives to the same as cabinet level positions, which are just less than $200,000 a year. Aww. Also reducing the number of senior executives eligible for top salary from 12 to 6. But I got my tongue tangled a moment ago because I'm also active with the National Act of Retired Federal Employees, NARF. And on the same day that this explanation of 1789 came out, there was another article that came out from NARF that was talking about how the House majority voted to impose a 5% payroll tax on all middle-class federal workers. Now again, this is active employees, this isn't retirees, but once they get enough that they can, everything they can get out of the actives, then they're going to come after the retirees. So it's one of those things that even though they're not attacking the postal employee, once you retire, your retirement is very, very vulnerable on these things. It talks about the fact in here that under this bill, a federal nurse who takes care of our veterans and earns $45,000 a year will have $200 less each month to buy groceries and to pay the mortgage. If the House majority is opposed to taxing Americans middle class, they have a funny way of showing. But I urge any of you, all of you, to get involved with NARF also, and to make yourself available with their information. They stay on top of things legislatively just like SNAPS does. And both of these are excellent places for you to get some solid information on what's happening on Capitol Hill. The day after that came out was the special articles that come out from NAPS headquarters. The article is called NAPS HQ to You. And in there, Jay Kalaki had a very interesting article, this was on May 11th, about how the fight is over in the Senate for the moment as far as this postal bill, but now round two comes up with the fight over on the House, and how we need to be active in contacting our members of the House of Representatives once they start getting these bills shaken down to where we have something to address, to encourage our particular members of the House of Representatives to support these bills. Because these are things that this is something that obviously could affect the entire livelihood of the Postal Service. I do have, by the way, a few extra copies of the legislative briefing that I'll just lay out here on the front table, that anyone that wants one is more than welcome to get it. And with that, that concludes my legislative report, but I would like to take a point of personal privilege and tell everybody that even though I can't campaign for Larry Ewing at the National Convention, because I will not be attending, I am a supporter of Larry Ewing. Larry Ewing is the man that takes care of business. Larry Ewing has done a terrific job for us as the Mink Area Vice President, and I hope that he returns after the convention still as our Vice President.
That pretty much concludes us. We can now move forward to our caucuses and finish today's business. Tomorrow morning starts at 9 o'clock. We'll start off with Brian doing his branch financial presentation, and then we'll have Brian, for as long as you guys don't pepper him with questions. I've got a list about that long of things that I want to give you guys the opportunity to discuss, things that are going to make your job maybe a little clearer understanding, maybe better ways to handle things, things we need to discuss, as well as next year's mix. So that's kind of what's on the agenda tomorrow. For the most part, oh, by the way, if there's any resolutions out there that you guys want the MINC support of, tomorrow morning would be the time to bring it up. So if you've got something like that, you might want to finalize with candidates so you can present tomorrow. That concludes today's business. Thank you.